Those dudes be eating, man. All right. Let's get started. 3, 2, and 1. Talk to me, Buffs Nation. We got a special treat for you all. We got my guy David Talks Buffs from David Talks Buffs here on YouTube. My man B, I've been doing that Colorado content. David, man, what's going on?
Jay, thanks for having me on, man. This is a long time overdue. I'm glad we're finally able to connect, chop it up. There isn't a better time to be talking about Colorado. So thanks again, man.
Exactly. This is probably the best time to be talking about Colorado. Fantastic season. So we're going to dive into this season, get some thoughts on both ends and feelings, man, because look, I'm going to be honest. Coming up front, when I did my preview video for the season, I was prepping and looking at the schedule, David. I was like, man, I do think the Buffs can go 9-3. And so I put together my schedule. I got proof. I got it on video. It's on the channel here at the Prime Time College Football. I got my proof. And when I saw that 9-3, I was like, I'm going to go with that. And they finished there. I'm like, okay, your boy might know something. When you saw the schedule and everything went down, where did you think Colorado initially was going to land?
So I was teetering right around there. I think initially in the spring, my unofficial prediction was 9-3. But I got to be honest, Jay, as we kind of went back through the summer, we ended up putting a guard at right tackle. I was a little nervous, so I dropped my prediction down to 8-4. Still, a doubling of last year's wins, but that's what I was expecting. 8-4. Anything on top of that is, A plus plus.
No, I totally get you with that. Because for me, so the games I thought they were going to win, I thought that actually the 3 losses, those I marked as wins. The three actual games that the 3 losses, I thought they were going to win those games. And my losses, they destroyed, like Oklahoma State at the end of the season, 52-0. I had them losing to Oklahoma State because Oklahoma State coming into the year with all those players. I thought that what was going to go down, but it didn't, man. It did not at all. So, but how did it feel this season for you, though, man? I mean, I know, you as a longtime fan and a graduate of Colorado, watching your team go from 1-11 to 4-8 to 9-3. I know that was an amazing ride.
Yeah. It's been an emotional roller coaster, but the biggest thing, Jay, that I try and tell new viewers or people who ask me about it is that it just feels amazing to care about college football and for other people to care about us. I mean, we were in the bottom cellar, we're relevant, G5 bound, like that's how I always felt. And, Prime came in here to a program he had no business coming to. Again, I really want to credit him because he had the balls to take this job on. You think Dan Lanning or any of these high-end, hires over the last few years that are coming to Colorado? No. So he had the stones, put his money where his mouth is, come out to here and run things with his own style. And it's been a great fit. It's been a lot of fun. And it's been great to go from being hyped up. I mean, this was hard to be memed by everybody at the end of last year throughout the whole offseason, right? But now I feel like, hey, we've won enough to where now I feel like we are deserving in some sense. Like it feels good to be a true villain sometimes of other college football fan bases. It's fun to go back and forth on Twitter, the trash talk, all that. And honestly, to watch some generational talents play for Colorado in itself. I mean, that's just been incredible. A lot of people try and rain on our parade saying Deion, Coach Prime, he's going to leave at some point. I don't care, Jay. My channel is all about living in the moment, enjoying this. And I mean, it's been perfect. It's been perfect.
That's awesome. And that's a very good point. We're talking with my guy, David Talks Buffs from David Talks Buffs here on YouTube. Please go check him out. Yeah, it's funny you say that because the Coach Prime experiment to me was a fascinating one as soon as it happened. That's kind of what, sparked the creation of this channel was I've been a fan of Deion Sanders as a kid, most of my life. One of my favorite players. Whenever I played Madden back in the day when I was real young, I always picked the Falcons and picked Deion Sanders because my cousin would always pick Rod Woodson and the Steelers. So I had to have somebody that could match up, right? And so seeing him go become a coach, going from Jackson State, coming to Colorado, it intrigued me that you rarely see the great players be able to be successful as coaches because a lot of them have that mentality of, why can't you just do what I do? Like, just do it this way. And you can't. But then we're going to talk about this guy now. Coach Prime walks in here and he brings like a version of him. He brings Travis Hunter, who looks like him. Now, Travis Hunter obviously is one of one, David. We know that there's a very good chance he wins the Heisman. For those watching it today, the Heisman, he's going to probably win it tonight. If you're watching it later, afterwards, so don't attack us on this. But, David, when you look at this, Travis Hunter, one of one, he has won 7 different awards that, honestly, I'm somewhat surprised that he was able to pull off, while at the same time, I am just beyond impressed. How did you feel about seeing him go not only the Blitnikoff, the Walter Camp, the Hornung, the Bednark, the Locke Impact Award, the AP National Player of the Year, and the Big 12's Defense Player of the Year? Talk to me about that as a fan.
And I'll add this too, if I remember correctly, an All-American at both corner and wide receiver, which is just pure insanity. I mean, it's a shame that we've only had him here for 2 years, but obviously he needs to move on to the NFL. But just a treat, a once-in-a-lifetime type of talent, and still surreal that he is wearing the black and gold. Still surreal. I'm going to be able to see him here at the Alamo Bowl here in just a few weeks. That's going to be awesome. But he has been a program transformer for us. He and Shador, they embody toughness, resilience. And I mean, I've been somebody that's like, hey, I think Travis Hunter can play both corner and wide receiver, but even I don't want him playing that many snaps. And he has done it again. And he has shown that he can stay healthy. He can do it and not take plays off despite what some people might try and tell you. He's not a guy that mails it in. He just has that mental edge that is just so unique. It's like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan-esque. And
Deion Sanders.
Yeah, Deion Sanders. And he's truly, Jay, this is what's so crazy is that I've never seen a player impact a team from the boundary the way that he does. Like he completely transforms the way that we play defense. He completely transforms how our offense runs. And it's just, it's very, very rare that you see a player do that on one side of the ball, let alone, I mean, on both sides of the ball. I mean, I know that Champ Bailey and, Charles Woodson did it, but I don't know if they did it to this kind of level. And it's not to throw shade on them, but I just can't remember anything like this that I've ever seen. I think his numbers should be retired or memorialized in some sense here at CU. And he's going to go down as, I think, as long as things go according to plan, our second Heisman winner in school history, and the first one that I've been truly able to appreciate in my lifetime.
Yeah, the Salam era was very, you were probably either super young or not born at that point.
I was 3 years old, yeah.
Yeah, I was alive too. I was super young in the Rashad Salam era. Man, he was still a beast, but Travis Hunter should leave CU as the most decorated player to probably ever play there. And it's just amazing that we had the opportunity to witness it. And like you said, I don't think I'll ever see this again in collegiate sports. I mean, Champ Bailey did. I mean, he had 47 catches, 500-something yards. I think he maybe had closer to 5 or 10 touchdowns. Okay. I can't remember the exact number, but even Champ said that, even compared to how he played, this was completely new of what Travis has been able to do, is being that impactful on both sides of the ball. And where do you think he's going to play in the NFL? DB or wide receiver?
Man, to be honest with you, Jay, I've gone back and forth on that throughout this year. I think at this point, I really do think that whatever team he lands with is going to give him the opportunity to play both ways, because I I I just think it's difficult when you're a head coach and pressure is on every single year in the NFL. I think it's just going to be hard for coaches to hold themselves back of keeping either likely their top wide receiver or their top corner off the field. I think he's going to get the opportunity to do both until proven otherwise.
No, I can totally agree with you there. I think the only thing I need him to do is get a little bit more meat on his bones. He is
Yep.
playing a little bit on the smaller side, but especially if he plays DB. Wide receiver, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
DB, and he's going to be hitting them big old running backs. I mean, Derrick Henry comes running at you. Got your boy a little nervous there. But hey, it is what it is. He'll be all right. We are chopping it up with David Talks Buffs over there at David Talks Buffs here on YouTube, man. I appreciate you pulling up with us. I want to talk about Shedeur Sanders, man. He put together a pretty darn good season. Isn't he the record holder at Colorado?
Yeah, he holds pretty much all the records outside of like career passing, single game touchdown record, are still not his. But I mean, he
close.
killed it. Yeah. He's still close, only playing here 2 years, but he was fantastic. I think he's put close to 70, 80 touchdowns so far in his Buffs career. We'll see what happens in the bowl game.
That's just dumb. Like, thinking of that, that's what we got 62 passing touchdowns, and he's got 8 more rushing touchdowns. So, yeah, he's about just under 70. And you're right, 7,100 passing yards. Whew. Yeah, I didn't realize when I looked at the numbers, and I'm looking at them again, I didn't realize his numbers were really that high. Now I knew because I know he's third in the country in yards.
Yeah.
Second in touchdowns. And do you think he got snubbed for the Heisman?
I mean, I think he deserves to be there as a Heisman finalist, but I've also been on record since last January, whenever Dillon Gabriel transferred out to Oregon. Jay, I thought that Dillon Gabriel would put together a Heisman finalist worthy season, which I think he has. Ashton Genty obviously is, very deserving. But, and who am I missing? Am I missing one more?
Yeah, Cam Ward.
Yeah, Cam Ward. Cam Ward was definitely deserving as well, but
I agree. Statistically
he was. But I think Shedeur, yes, we had, some real great wide receivers, but I still think out of Dillon Gabriel and Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders had the worst offensive line out of all those guys.
Yeah, easily.
And I think that if we didn't have Travis Hunter, I think that he would be part of this conversation. But I think that people kind of knew you kind of had to put the marketing campaign around one guy, and Shedeur was one of those first guys kind of campaigning out there for Travis Hunter. It shows you the type of teammate that he is. And I think with him even opting to play in the East-West Shrine Bowl, go through the whole practices for the week with, a bunch of our receivers, few other teammates going into it, like just shows you the teammate that he is. Of course, I think he loves the putting up the numbers, the winning and all that, but he's truly a team guy. So it was great to see him get the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. If Travis Hunter wasn't on the team, I would be kind of hitting my hand on the table more for him. But I think the college football committee got it right with the Heisman.
I mean, I'm there with you, but I still feel like, the numbers themselves say Shedeur needs to be there. You're second in touchdowns. Yeah. You lead the country in completion percentage at 74.2, which is already absurd. That's his highest of his career. Yeah. So legitimately, most yards in his career, second most touchdowns, which he had 40 at Jackson State, but he put up 35. And in that completion percentage at 74%, 3,900 yards is his career high. He put up the numbers that you're like, I'll put it this way. I was told that when he leaves Jackson State, he ain't going to be able to do that at D1 level. He ain't going to be able to do that at P4 level. There's no way that Shedeur Sanders is going to be good enough to do that. And I kept fighting people telling him, no, dude can ball.
Yeah.
Dude is good. He's a legitimate NFL caliber quarterback. He's got the patience. He's got the eye for it. He's got the IQ. He can throw. He actually has an arm and accuracy. Again, 74% completion. But those deep passes, man, he's hitting dudes in stride. Was at the Kansas State game. He chunked it down. Like, he's done so many games where he can actually sling it. But you're right. He had good receivers. Will Shepard, LeJontay Wester, right? Draylon Miller, which him and Omarion, when Omarion comes back healthy next year, oh my goodness, it's going to look good. So how do you feel about this class? Like, on 3, talk some recruiting. On 3 has Colorado as the number 2 team in the Big 12 in recruiting. And it's funny because as we're talking about recruiting, Coach Prime said that infamous quote, he ain't that concerned about high school recruiting. He's looking for guys that can play today. So you may have a small class here, but you're going to hit that transfer portal hard. And I've watched a lot of your content. You've been dropping a lot of nuggets around the transfer portal. First off, how you feel about that second-ranked Big 12 recruiting class, and let's dive into some of these portal targets.
Well, regarding the high school recruiting, I think Coach Prime is kind of proven, especially with this year, that I think that he was a little ahead of the curve with kind of reading how maybe having some of these bigger high school classes might backfire with, a handful of blue chip guys just jumping into the portal after their freshman year. And I think that it's clear that he's taken the approach of, like, we're not even bringing you into town on a visit unless there's some serious interest here that, like, we want you and, you're going to play early, whether that's, your freshman, sophomore year. Most of our freshmen got on the field last year. A handful of them did this year as well. And because he's been consistent with that, I think it does hold a lot of weight when we reach out to a high school recruit saying, hey, we want you here. He kind of has proven it to where, you're not just a number here if you're recruited here from high school. And I think that's allowed us to kind of focus a little bit more on the quality rather than the quantity, which that's great to hear that our rating is so high for that class. To be honest, I don't pay too much attention for the overall grades because I just feel like sometimes these recruiting sites, they don't really understand our strategy can be a little bit different against the grain. But, that's why I always thought it would work here with Colorado. I know this is a bit of a digression, Jay, but, Boulder, it's eccentric. It's a little bit different. There's a huge startup ecosystem there. So it's very entrepreneurial. It's very think outside the box. It's very go against the grain, but stick to your guns, stick with conviction. And Coach Prime hasn't wavered throughout these 3 recruiting cycles with his conviction. And I think that that's really starting to pay off now. You're seeing other schools start to, I think, appreciate that and also move in that same direction. So with the transfer portal, I think it's fantastic. I think that we've been able to do a really good job, especially last year, bringing in guys that have multiple years of eligibility. And because of that, we're not necessarily going to see 40 new transfers in this year. Like, that's just not going to happen. But we have enough foundation laid to where now this is the first time, Jay, where I feel like we're really able to target specific position groups. Whereas the last 2 previous years, we've been trying to get pretty much anybody at every position type of thing. And this is the year where I think our offensive line becomes a net positive for us rather than a liability. And our defensive line, takes another step forward. But I think you will see us put a better supporting cast, I think, around Julian Lewis. That's definitely has to be the priority.
Speaking of Julian, you've got him coming in as potentially battling for the quarterback position, but Caden Slater from Liberty is supposed to be pulling up to visit and check out the school. You see Colorado bringing in another quarterback to bring a veteran presence to kind of buffer with Juju, or what you thinking on that?
Well, I mean, of course we're bringing in Julian Lewis to be that guy, but he's going to have to earn it just like everybody else. And Right now, our quarterback room outside of Julian Lewis leaves a lot to be desired. I'm not trying to throw any shade at anybody in the quarterback room, but it's it's not nearly as good enough. Like, for instance, you see Georgia, they just put another 4-star guy back there after Carson Beck goes down. They don't miss a beat. We don't kind of have that luxury right now. We don't have the luxury that Texas has with Arch Manning, but we need to provide solid competition in case Juju isn't ready. We need somebody that's taken a lot of snaps and is really experienced and that can make the plays. Um, so I would love it if we bring in, Caden Salter. I think he's been really productive at Liberty. Not the most accurate passer, but I wouldn't see him as like an immediate starter over Julian Lewis. I think it would be a legitimate competition. And so whoever we bring in, though, from my understanding, it's not going to be for free. They're going to be bringing in somebody who is compensated versus with NIL, and we need a deep quarterback room. Right now, we don't have one.
No, that does make sense because you're losing Shador, and that's a lot of production heading to the league. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. He's a senior. He's been in college football 4 years. He's at that age where he has officially aged out. But you're 100% spot on there that you got to have good competition. That way you're growing, just growing Julian Lewis himself as well. Competition, it's like innovation leads to, competition leads to innovation. And for Julian, the big thing is having somebody behind him to push him or somebody in front of him to push him to try to surpass him. You can't have anybody get too comfortable, especially at the collegiate level, because they're not there long enough for you to just, sit there and just sit on them. You got to get them going. So, no, you're 100% spot on with that. There's a lot of good players coming in to do visits. You saw Jaheim Oaits, which I think he left recently and he took another visit. But there's a lot of predictions out for him to go to Colorado. Mm-hmm. That's a big one right there.
Yeah. Again, with us being able to kind of, if you're looking at it from a salary cap perspective,
right,
to kind of position our big spending towards the trenches, that's definitely a focus so far this year. And you might wonder, hey, why didn't we go after a guy like Micah Hudson or maybe one of these other top recruited receivers in the portal? Now, we are getting a visit with NC State wide receiver Kevin Concepcion, which will be great. But, I don't know if we're going to be paying top dollar in the portal for wide receivers. Like maybe you've seen Oregon do with Evan
Stewart.
Evan Stewart last year, that type of thing. Because Jay, we've had a lot of success bringing guys up from the G5 level and having success here. LeJonte Wester, Jimmy Horn, Xavier Weaver last year. And so we have some other fun visits at the wide receiver position coming on. We have, again, I said Kevin Concepcion. We have Joseph Williams, 6'2" wide receiver from Tulsa. He was the AAC Offensive Freshman of the Year. Yeah. We have Eric Rivers visiting from FIU. He put up almost 1,200 yards receiving on only 62 receptions this past year as a true sophomore.
Wow.
In double-digit touchdowns, if I remember correctly. And then lastly, with the Julian Lewis connection, former 4-star or 5-star, I forget, tight end / wide receiver Caleb Odom. He was Julian Lewis's high school teammate there in Carrollton, Georgia. I think he might want to play more wide receiver, but he's 6'5", 220 pounds. And so that might be kind of the big fish that we're going after, so to speak. But he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time at Alabama yet. But I think he would slot in very nicely with the recruited talent that we have here, like you mentioned, Omarion Miller and a handful of other guys, Draylon Miller. But I think we might go big spending on the trenches and then maybe kind of play a little bit more money ball, finding some smaller school guys to come up and strengthen the wide receiver core.
No, and that's a fair point, especially with the Odom pickup. Man, that would be huge. Being teammates with Julian gives you that connection. I did see that he was headed off to go do another set of visits, but man, I think Colorado has a good chance of bringing him, especially because of the vision there. And like you said, Coach Prime and them have done a very, very good job with getting dudes from G5 and having them being very productive at the P4 level, to the point of, I mean, even their high school recruits are pretty darn good. Like I said, Amarion Miller, Draylon Miller, he came across great as soon as Amarion went down. And so having layers upon layers upon layers of wide receivers that are ready to produce, I can totally see that's one area. Even though Odom will be fantastic to have just because of the connection with Juju, you're pretty good at wide receiver. You're fine. Like there's no real reason to really jump too hard at that. It's really going to be the heavy focus in the trenches, secondary. Saw some secondary folks coming through. What was it? The guy from USF.
Byard. Tawfiq Byard.
Yeah, the Byard. Yes. Grab him.
Yes.
That gives you like a Shiloh borderline replacement, or at least a rotational piece there in the safety room. And then, of course, you got to build the trenches. The offensive line and D-line are the two things that's got to get growing. But I'm going to be honest, man. There's a lot of opportunity to play at Colorado because, like you said, a lot of this is earned. It's not given. You come in, if you compete. I mean, hell, look at Cash Cleveland. I mean, he walk on. He stole somebody's job. He didn't steal it. He earned it. He walked in there and took it. It's mine. It's my bike, punk.
Yeah, it's a great environment. And I think kind of going back to our conversation before we started, Jay, we're talking a little bit about like the whole Bill Belichick type of thing. Similar to, UNC, there's going to be guys that are just really hungry for that sort of environment, that want to be there. It's the same thing for Coach Prime. Just like, Michigan under Jim Harbaugh was really, really unique. You kind of needed a certain kind of a specifically wired guy that would fit into that program really well. It's kind of the same thing here at Colorado, where I think that's why you've seen us develop a really solid pipeline and relationship with IMG. We've brought on some staff members that were previously employed there, stuff like that. Yeah. But it's kind of a professional environment. You're expected to put in a lot of work outside of the given hours, and it's truly a professional environment to where, I mean, you can see this in the documentaries and the videos and stuff like that, where it's a pro style environment where every day you're coming in there, and somebody's looking to take your job, and the recruiting staff is looking for somebody better than you. And some people are really going to thrive in that environment. Some people it is not. But as Coach Prime's been able to be here and truly lay a foundation, you're starting to get the right guys that thrive with that kind of pressure.
Nope. That's the fair point right there. You're right. You're getting guys that don't mind the pressure to go from coal into diamonds, and they are definitely just letting that pressure be applied and going for it, man. We're talking to David Talks Buffs from YouTube. David, man, thank you for pulling up with us on the channel, man. Let the people know where they can find you.
Oh, well, thank you again, Jay. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at David Talks Buffs. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, David Talks Buffs. I put out video content every day from, a CU graduate's perspective. So it's a lot of fun. If you want to laugh, come to my channel. If you want to have some serious takes too, you can come to my channel. But the one thing that I promise is that you will leave entertained every single time.
Absolutely. And I'm a little disappointed you didn't put the horns on for us today.
I got them right here. Here.
And he is dedicated. Look at, see?
That, I got the Ralphie horns.
He's got his Ralphies going, and we knew that he wasn't playing around with it. Man, I appreciate you pulling up.
Absolutely, Jay. Let's do this again soon.
We will definitely.